immediately stopped and said,
All right, we're good. Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Godfather.
man, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate, as I usually do, the fact that each and every one of you has come here to this evening to take your time to spend time with us and see what the Inclusion Matters podcast is all about with Inclusion Pro Wrestling. As usual, for the first time, I will be your host, and I am in a position where I was able to pick my own guest. And this particular evening, I said no better way than to kick off something about inclusion than the guy who works for his local community college about equity, diversity, and inclusion, none other than yours truly, David Claudio, the Don of the Pacific Northwest. And that is where I came forward and I say, what better way to kick things off than my good, close, personal friend, a man who I respect, a man who has had me in his home, a man who truly, truly knows that I love him, and his name is Mark Rowan. Mark, welcome to the show.
Well, Claudio, I gotta say, I guess I'm gonna be your first guest. That's a cool thing. No disrespect to the two men up there in the top, but that's a cool introduction. That was different. So what do you got for me?
Man, I just want to say, like honestly, people who know me, right, know that I have this high level of respect for Mark Rowan. And I personally happen to know a lot about everything that I'm about to say this evening, which is why I really find it a great treat that I get to interview Mark. I find it a great treat that I had the absolute privilege of saying, hey, if you guys are having technical difficulties, I got the guest in mind. I mean, like, I remember a strapping young Claudio trying to get his foot in the door, and I go down to the city was Milwaukee, and they had an Elks Lodge, and that is where the first time that this obvious beauty came into my life, known as Mark Rowan, and there was just something about him that really stood out. And I'll tell you honestly, it's not your physical disability. It's the size of your heart, man. I mean, like, I want you to tell people a little bit about yourself, myself, like the generic question that, like a lot of people ask, where are you from, man?
Well, I'm just a Vancouver, Washington boy that grew up humble. 6 years old, I loved watching wrestling. I went to my first real wrestling matches at 6 years old. I knew right then and there that's what I wanted to do, physical limitations or not. And I remember the day we met. And I will say, you're the most realist fucking guy in the room. I've always said that about you. And I'm the most realist guest you're gonna ever have. That's for sure. No, I have a lot of respect for people with disabilities in general. I have a lot of respect for people that are different. I'm different. Uh, it was a hard road for me. I know why you don't like the name, because it was given to me by a man that I do respect, and I get it. He did as a joke, and I get that. So for the first time in 22 and a half years, you are going to interview Mark Rowan, not T-Rex tonight. I'll put him aside for one night. But I do appreciate you a lot. And for me to be your first guest on here, that's cool. Anything else you got from me, man? You just asked.
Oh,
Okay.
man, see, this is a beautiful
Before we
part.
break in, we have to do breaking news first. We do have 2 new sponsors for this podcast, so we should thank them first.
Yep.
I'm gonna give Nathan the honors this time, because I did them last show. I'll let you do them this show, Nathan.
All right. Well, the first one is El Ranchero in Long Beach, Washington. So we want to thank you for that. And then
Yeah.
the second one, I'll let Tony do because he said it twice, and I still need to get it in my brain, my memory. So
Okay, so the second one is Precision Power Washing. You can find him on Facebook and on Instagram. So thank you to our 2 brand new sponsors. To go with the other 2 sponsors, we will give you at the end of the show. Now, back to the Godfather.
Thank you. And thank you to our wonderful sponsors for investing in our dream. But what I want to get to is the fact that I appreciate the fact that Mark took the time to let it be known to the television audience at home that I particularly do not feel that a name like T-Rex is appropriate for an industry, nor is it appropriate for somebody who's supposed to be a mentor, nicknaming somebody with a physical disability. And I appreciate you sharing that those are my feelings and do not necessarily reflect on that of my staff, our wonderful sponsors who I want to once again thank, or anybody else for that matter. That's solely that of myself. And what was it like coming into the business? Because I know, unless I'm mistaken, like you have been fortunate enough to have been brought into this industry by the Barr family.
Man, that was a wild ride. Like Sandy, if you know Sandy well enough, Sandy was a like what I call like a 2-pack smoking, beer drinking guy. And I remember he actually kind of stole me away from the man that named me. I don't want to go into that whole thing, but like I will say that Sandy had a vision that I was wanting, and he changed me from wrestler to referee. And my God, so I owe that guy a lot too. And God bless him for taking a kid that has arthrogryposis and taking a kid and taking him under his wing and saying, I don't give a shit about that. I don't care where you've been. I don't care where you came from. You deserve to have a chance, because I was there all the time. I wasn't missing training. I didn't miss no practices. I showed up. Guys made fun of me. Guys threw shit at me. And the funny part about that was, out of all those gentlemen, I'm the only one left.
Yes, indeed. So tell me about some of those early days of working with them.
Man, working with Sandy again, that's like working with the mafia in a sense, because like you were tied to him. Like he had to approve where you went. And if he didn't like where you went, he would just tell you you're not going there. And if you went there, like you were gonna get chicken wings. And I don't know if you guys know what that means. Like he was gonna lock you up in something until you couldn't like physically move. And so like I was like honored though, because at 14 years old, I helped that guy set up chairs. And I had to wait 3 years because he said, I can't train you legally until you're 17. I would have been in at 14. Vancouver, Washington had a place called Uncle Milt's Pizza then. And he was running between there, and he was running between Bagley Center then, which is now the, I don't know what it's called. It's a big place down there that's right by a park. And I went there, and one of the first people I ever met was Sandy in the business. Then I met a man named Coco Samoa. And it was just weird, because when I showed up to Sandy's facility after that, it was like a warehouse filled with mattresses, but it was a warehouse filled with love. Claudio just caught me on a subject tonight that I could go on for 2 hours about a man like that. If it wasn't for Sandy, I wouldn't be in this business today, and there'd be none of this right here that's on this screen. And that's the honest to God's truth. Go ahead.
Well, before Claudio asks another question, Nathan, why don't we ask Mr. Mark about the new promotion that's starting up here in Longview? Get his thoughts on that.
yeah, what's your thoughts on the Inclusion Pro Wrestling that's starting up in?
Well, I respect what you gentlemen are doing. Just let me say that first and foremost. I respect what you're doing. I like the part of inclusion, because I know where you're going with it. I know that you have cerebral palsy there, Messiah, and I know that you've never gotten to get in a wrestling ring, and I have. And I'm going to give you a little advice. This is what I'm going to give you. To all the naysayers and all the doubters, fuck them.
Yep.
But what I will say is Inclusion Pro Wrestling, I look forward to helping you. I look forward to being that guy that can take you to that level, because I know what I'm capable of doing, and I also know what you two gentlemen up top are capable of doing when you put your minds to it.
Yep.
Very beautiful. Very well said.
Okay. Well, back to Godfather.
So it's wonderful that you should mention Inclusion Pro Wrestling and in the Inclusion Matters podcast, because I want you to tell everybody at home more about what Inclusion Pro Wrestling is all about, and more specifically what that means to you.
Where do I start? Because this could go a few minutes or so.
Good.
Well, I'm going to base it more off the wrestling end, because like I've only gotten to know these fellas on the podcast for a very little bit of time. I know they had this going before I was even in the picture on their podcast, but like I do help them supervise, produce, and every now and then I come on and do guest co-host. That I do know. But to the wrestling, here's what I will say. You guys, I hope and pray that one day you'll be profitable. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because it's the absolute truth. And I know that Messiah, you have a vision, and I know that the man up there, top up there, Tony, has a vision. Now, my vision is to make sure that you guys understand that the wrestling business is not easy. I'm a prime example of that. I was ridiculed. Like I said, I had stuff thrown at me. I had people say I didn't belong. But you know what I did? I blocked it all out, and I said, screw this. I'm still going. And to this day, I've never, ever, ever had somebody say, you don't deserve to be in there now. It took me 10 plus years to finally get the respect that I deserved. And it took 10 plus years for people to realize that, yeah, I was probably living on a gimmick that I probably shouldn't have had. But you know what? I ran with it anyway, out of respect to the guy that gave it to me, because I didn't want to cause waves. That's just who I'm not. And somewhere along the way, you guys are you're gonna hit struggles, and you're gonna hit that, but persevere. That's what I'll tell you. Persevere, because it's worth it. If you really have a goal to be, it's worth it.
And I want to respond to that really quick. So, first of all, I appreciate all that advice, and I think Mark and I are
It's okay. Call me whatever you want.
Kendrick spirits in that fact, right? We both know what it's like to be told you can't do something and be like, screw it, I'm doing it anyway, right? Like, watch me, because now you gave me the initiative to do it. So I look forward to showing that to other people, first of all, with Inclusion Pro Wrestling, but learning from great people like yourself, like the Godfather, like Tony, because I learn stuff from him every day. Like the other people that will eventually be involved with Inclusion Pro Wrestling, and to prove that regardless of anything you have going on, your dream's never out of the realm of possibility.
Well said.
See, I have this mindset of I love it more, or I love you more. I love more. And by that, I don't mean I love you more than you love me. I mean, I love it more than what we're going to have to go through. I love it more than, like, I'm just going to shoot straight from the hip. This is actually what I tell my partner, Carly Meyer. Is like, when I tell you I love you more, I don't mean I love you more than you love me. I love you more than the struggles that we're going to go through. I love you more than the shut-off notices that we might get. I love you more than the doubters that want to see us divided. I love you more than the trifling ass motherfuckers that are going to try to get up into your ear and tell you that I ain't shit. I feel that same way about pro wrestling too.
All I'm gonna say is amen to that.
Yep.
The struggles are real in this business, and it's not easy, and it's not for the faint of heart. And pro wrestling's been a love of mine for a long time. And I kind of relate to when you said the shut off notice. That could actually that's real shit right there.
Everybody knows what it's like to have something shut off, whether it's their internet, their power, their electricity, something, the water, you name it.
Yep.
Like, I'm pretty sure everybody here knows the name Eloise Kitchen because they're an organization of food banks all over the country. No matter
Yep.
what city you're in, we all know about food banks. We all know about the local city rescue missions. The reality is real. And I get that, and that's why I support pro wrestling, because no matter what's going on in the actual world, whether they're spending $5 or $50, everybody deserves to be entertained, and everybody gets their money's worth. And that's where inclusion is important to me.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead, guys. Fire away. It's your guys' time.
Man,
Yep.
this is an absolute treat, man. So, who was the first promotion that was given the blessing, and what was it like once you finally got that blessing to work for a promotion that was not his?
It was weird because like a guy named Scott Ferris actually is where I got my start in a group called Oregon Championship Wrestling. This was like a group of like outcasts that like we probably should have really never, none of us been in there. I remember that was like my first real break, but like if you mean like where I really found my home, it was Sandy's. It was Sandy and Tito, without a question. And that's no disrespect to any promoters I've ever worked for. That's no disrespect to anybody. I'm as real as they come. And if it wasn't for those two gentlemen, I would have never really stuck, because Oregon Championship Wrestling used me as like a laughing stock too. And I got to do like 2 matches with them, and then like I paid $3,500 for 2 matches, like to get trained, to be told I'm not going to be good enough, like on the real. That's what I had to go through, and then being told, oh, it's going to take a strict professional and I still respect this man to this day for breaking me in, Gentleman George Michaels. Gentleman George Michaels was my first ever professional wrestling match, and I'll never forget it because they had a stipulation that they had to do with me where they were going to have one hand behind his back duct taped, and I got to get in there with 5 minutes with him. And in that 5 minutes, I wowed him so much that he told the promoter, you need to keep this guy around in some way, shape, or form. That was my audition.
So amazing to hear stories of Gentleman George, because everyone I hear from has the same general analysis that man has a good heart.
No, he really does. People can't go wrong with booking that dude. He's still wrestling, so like people can't go wrong booking him. To this day, I will say that about George. If it wasn't for George to give me my start into my first match, it wouldn't have been possible, because nobody wanted to do it. And they literally said, oh, it's going to take a hell of a professional to debut this kid, because, he's, look at his arms and his legs. And George said, I don't care. Let's do it. Let's have him throw water at me. And then 2 weeks later, we wrestled. And that was literally the storyline. I was sitting out in the crowd training, and they came up to me and said, okay, 2 weeks is your thing. Tonight you start throwing water, Gentleman George, and popcorn. And I did. I did exactly what they wanted. And George came out, smacked me in the face, knocked me over. I'm laying down on the ground ringside. People got sympathy. I didn't want it, but I got fucking sympathy for days. And they were like, they were literally like, you just hit a fucking crippled kid. He needs to go. You need to reprimand this guy. And so Scott Ferris came out and said, no, I'll do you one better. Gentleman George, you have to wrestle him with one arm tied behind your back. And literally, I kicked the shit out of him with a handicap sign, a mop, and he sold it like a champ. He got 2 moves in all night, and it was the first 2. And for that, I thanked him so highly, because I was more happy just to be able to say I did it than anything, and I could prove that it was wrong. And to this day, I remember that, and that was 23 years ago. This September.
Man, that is amazing, my friend. Do any of you up there have anything you wish to add or throw in before I move forward with some real questions with this guy?
Actually, I want to say something about that match because as you were saying that, like, that's why I started smiling because I was there for that match,
I feel you.
and I remember that match. I remember the pride of thinking, "Holy crap!" Like they're letting somebody that might not be exactly like me, but is like me in there, and he's like holding his own with like probably the most hated guy in that promotion at the time. And owning him in that promotion. So there was like so much pride that like I felt again as you were telling that story, and I felt, you know, that night.
But here's the
So
kicker to that. Here's the kicker. I'll finish with this before you end. Before somebody else asks a question. The kicker to it is after that, George Michaels though had earned my respect enough that he told me to go look into PMPW and other places. That he was going to get me booked at some places at the time that needed a guy like me. So I still to this day hold him as high as regards as most.
yeah.
That is amazing. Absolutely. So, with that being said, he got you in. He got you over. What are some really awesome promoters in the area that particular night afforded you of working with throughout the years?
He kind of broke up. What was that? I heard part of it.
I said, give me some names of some promoters that afforded you to have working with throughout the years, man.
God, there's been so many. Sammy, Tito, Mark Dykstra, God bless him. Mark Dykstra Sr., my God, like we just lost him. Mark Dykstra. Pretty much, I mean, even Dan Klosser to a little bit had an influence on me. My God, BCW. I'm just trying to think, like, I've worked for so many that it's just like I don't want to like miss any. So like, but like honestly, my favorite all time thing was doing I did a show about I don't know 8 or 10 years ago probably. It was a BCW show and they did something for I don't want to misquote it. I think it was Dornbeckers and they did like a toy drive at Christmas time and I got to be the campaign for that, which was really cool. I got to go up and help deliver toys to them and Shriners. And that was like the biggest moment that I can say like I enjoyed. And it wasn't even a wrestling moment. It was just like a life moment where I got to go and hang out with kids and live it up and give toys out and get to and be Santa, like be the elf to Santa. Like it was the coolest moment. And I remember so many people were like against it. And I said, well, if no one else wants to go, I will go represent the company with the promoters at the time because nobody else wanted to do it. And that's really sad that nobody wanted to go and help children, to say the least. And I mean, that's a topic for another day. But that's the kind of man I am. And that's why Inclusion of Matters podcast and stuff like this, I don't mind coming on anytime and being a guest for because I know that Messiah, you try your damnedest every time to get good interviews. And you're having a staff now that can help you with that. So that's just how I feel. And if people are too selfish to help out like a Dornbeckers or like a Shriners, how fucking dare you? Sorry my language, but how fucking dare you? Oh, and I didn't ask for no money for that or nothing. I just did it.
See, that's the beautiful part about my mindset, my friend, is when the community needs the community comes together and things come together the way things need to be come together. And that's why we have this wonderful organization known as Inclusion Pro Wrestling. Unless I'm mistaken, I could be wrong. I'm not very familiar with, like names or anything of the Pacific Northwest these days. But didn't you also have the opportunity of working for promoters like I believe his name is CC Poison, and like I think is also the one at the time was Jeff Manning.
Yeah, where do I start with that? I've also worked for a guy named Frank Culberson, Pete Schweitzer. Although that wasn't the greatest of times, I learned a lot from that mistake with Pete Schweitzer. That's all I'm going to say. And to this day, I will still say that when he says that they call him Pete Shyster for a reason. But yes, CC Poison was a hell of an influence on me. CC had a vision that I liked. CC was about kids. CC was about promoting to a level, and he still is to this day. If you go to any CC Poison shows that are in Astoria, he caters to the kids, and I think that's really cool. And a lot of people say, "Oh, well, this isn't WWE." Well, you know what? Like, we can still cater to kids and have a good time, and we can cater to adults and have a good time. I mean, adulting sucks. I would still rather be a kid, but to see a kid smile when I do something, that's worth it to me alone. To watch a kid come up and want to shake your hand at a show and say, "Hey, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. Can I get your autograph?" That's the coolest thing in the world to me. Like, money's great, but like having a kid come up to you and be like, "Dude, you're God to them." And I've never ever had the privilege to not do that, because everywhere I go, this is the guy they stick out there to do that. And it's really, I mean, I've done it. I'm the John Cena of the Northwest. I'm the John Cena of the Northwest. That's no disservice to anybody, but all the hours I've put into help with stuff like that, help Dornbeckers is out over the years, the Shriners of the world, the Randall Children's Hospitals of the world. And I've never asked for a dollar. I've never done it. I just went and done it. And there was times where I didn't even have a vehicle and I'd go do it. So, like, to put that in perspective, whether it was raining, snowing, 100 degrees outside, I did it.
Absolutely.
And if I may cut in for a minute, on behalf of the staff on Inclusion Pro Wrestling, Mr. Rowan has touched some of my heartstrings like he normally always does. We haven't announced this yet, but ladies and gentlemen, probably our second show in will be a toy drive for Dornbeckers, children, and the Shriners Hospital in Portland, Oregon. So it won't be the October show. It may be the November or December show, but it will be a toy drive for the kids that are in the hospital at Dornbeckers and Shriners Hospitals.
That is the best news. This guy should always be allowed to just like bust in with breaking shit like that. No, man, like
no, I got you.
Like, okay, this is one that I hit really hard because I shoot and I shoot hard and I shoot with precision. Like, one of the things that I've always felt is like a really big, huge thing. It is like whether or not your product is going to be a first impression to young people, because, you know, like, go ahead and raise your hand if you waited until you were a grown-ass man before you decided wrestling was for you, right? No, I didn't think so either. Like, let's face it, we all have some form of, in some way, shape, or form, a form of, like, therapy needing suppressed childhood memory of a toxic home and wrestling being on the television and going, so with that in mind, you know, like, I can understand the mindset of, you know, like, doing more for the kids, because we do have the privilege of being most children's earliest memories of stuff, right? You know, like, that's why I tell people on a regular basis, wrestling is like French opera. It's always evolving, and it's always got the simplistic staples of storylines: good versus evil, blue collar versus the evil empire or the evil employer, the brother that turns against the brother for greed, the evil man who tries to repent and change his ways. It's French opera. But with that being said, you know, like, the kids are important, because they grow up to feed this machine that we call pro wrestling, or because, you know, like just life in general is precious and sacred. So, you know, like I appreciate the toy runs that are done for the children, especially since I came up in an area where wrestling tended to happen at a family amusement center called the B&I in beautiful Lakewood, Washington. And I appreciate the toy runs and fundraisers and Schreier's and Mary Bridge and a March of Dimes and all the wonderful childhood organizations that are fundraising this month specifically. But I know something about T-Rex, Mark, that not a lot of people here know about Mark, and that is that he has an addiction to seminars. He has the work ethic of if there's a seminar within at least 6 hours of driving within him, he'll be there. So now that I've completely pushed Mark Rowan and his addiction that he's probably upset with me over, I want him to tell the wrestling world not just how much money he has flushed down the toilet. No, don't really do that. Don't. That's invested money. That's not flushed money. But all the wonderful people who have taken time to come through the area to put on seminars. That's genuinely how I view seminars. That's people taking their time. Some people view it as bottom grabbing, you know, like as a means of, you know, like getting their plane ride home or whatever. I see it as a tool, as an opportunity to learn from a perspective that's not generally within the whole, you know, greater same time zones, same area code, same zip code as the venue. You know, like I'm just going to let Mark tell me about a lot of the guys that he's worked with on a seminar level.
I've worked with a lot, actually. Here's the thing with seminars that I will say. I do have an all-time favorite seminar that I attended, and I actually attended it because it wasn't even because like the guy was in the WWE or WWF or whatever the hell you want to call it now. But there was something about Marty Jannetty that like, and I've been to Chaz Taylor's and there's been a lot of others, but the one that stood out with me the most, that I love the most, actually, I got to say, when I went, and I went along, I went a long ways. I went to a seminar one time in Nevada, if that tells you something. I went to a seminar in Nevada, and I lived in Vancouver, Washington at the time. I mean, I was the only guy from, I think, Washington and Oregon that even went to this thing. And I've done, I'm sure you've heard of him. I'm drawing a blank, though. His name is Bob. You wrestle with him, you get smarter, he says. His line is, wrestle me, you get smarter. I've been to his seminars. I've been to, seminars are great. I'm not sure exactly which one Claudio's pointing out because I've been to so many. But every seminar I've ever attended, I've learned something.
That's it. I want to hear about them all.
What now?
I said that's the beautiful thing, brother. I want to hear about them all. I want to hear about every person's seminar because, you know, like, let's hear about the people that have put on seminars. And that's not me shitting on nobody. That's me saying that seminars are an important thing. And, you know, like chances are a lot of these guys that you're about to name drop still out there spreading them tools. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, seminars are important. Like, I think if you can make one and you're, especially if you're a new guy, if you can make a seminar and it's somebody that's credible and you only have to pay, say, $30, $40, $50, if you can't invest $30, $40, or $50 in yourself, then why the hell are you in this business? I'm just being real, folks. I spent to go to Nevada once just to go to a seminar, just to get there, and the gas alone was almost $200. And then I paid another $100 to attend the seminar. And I knew I wasn't gonna get nothing like nothing major out of it. But you know what? Like, honestly, I learned. And because of it, I mean, but like Chaz Taylor, here's one for you. Chaz Taylor is one of the best seminars you can ever go to, because not only does he teach pro wrestling, he teaches you the etiquette of why we do what we do, why you wipe your feet, why you shake that man's hand. It's important in our business, by the way. If you can't get in a ring, and I'm just going to say it now because Claudio's got me name dropping, and I don't give a fuck. If you can't wipe your feet and shake a goddamn man's hand, whether you like him or not, you don't need to be in our fucking sport. Sorry. You're not interviewing. You're not interviewing T-Rex tonight. You're interviewing me. Mm-hmm.
You know, you said former global light heavyweight wrestling champion Chaz Taylor just a minute ago, and that's the one that really lit my heart up, because I've told him, you know, like some people say that thing, you know, like you never meet your heroes, but you know, like by the grace of God, I had the privilege of meeting Chaz, and I call him a hero because like I used to get in trouble in school a lot. And when you get in trouble in school, you get to spend a whole lot of time home. And well, back in the Pacific Standard Time Zone of the Pacific Northwest, everybody knew that on ESPN, you know, like Global Wrestling Federation came on at 1:00 in the afternoon. And, you know, like this isn't intended as a diss, even though like my mind saw it as such. I saw this skinny little twig with a mullet. And I do remember him being a skinny little twig with a beautiful mullet. And yes, I hope you're watching, Chaz Taylor. I love you, brother, because I'm telling the story about how I saw this man, and he was truly the inspiration of how I came into this business. Because I saw this man, twiggy little man, gear that barely fit him, you know, like his dad doing his own thing or whatnot, kind of hit home and reminded me of me. So it's like, this was kind of the common stuff for the common person. You know what I mean? Because, you know, like you love your dad and you love him with all your heart, but at the end of the day, he's off doing his own thing. You know what I mean? And that was the Tugboat Chaz Taylor schematic when they were in the Global. And that's what inspired me, genuinely. And I have had the privilege of telling him such. So it kind of jerked mine a little when you said you went to the Chaz Taylor seminar.
Not only did I go once, I've been to 2 of his.
And aren't you also able to say that you attended an I Am Funny Bone?
Yes, sir. I've attended I Am Funny Bone. I'm trying to think of who else now. Now you got me on seminars. God.
That's my point.
I've attended so many seminars, though. Like, I don't even know, like, if I'm giving them proper due to these people. Because, like, I learned a lot. But the most I actually learned from, like I said, was the Chaz Taylor one. And I don't know what it was about Chaz Taylor. I'd already been in business, like, probably 12 to 15, 8, almost 16 years. But I take something from him today that I'm going to drop now. And that's, I learned a thing called respect. There's a thing we call respect. And whether or not you like the guy in the locker room or the gal in the locker room or not, out of respect, you still shake their hand. And out of respect, you wipe your feet. And I took a lot from Chaz, because not only did I get to rep this man at CAC in Las Vegas, Nevada, I got to privilege of actually being one of his proteges now. And I think that's fucking fantastic, because Chaz Taylor was a huge influence on people's careers and lives. And Chaz, if you're listening, and I hope you are, brother, I'm sure here at Inclusion Matters podcast, these gentlemen would love to have you. I see a nod.
You know what? The whole time, I promise you, I can make that move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
we can make that happen.
You know this about me, but I'm actually a friend of Chaz Taylor's, and
So
like he'll admit it to you. You know, like when the Houston flooding happened, I blew his phone up. I specifically drained the energy in my day to make sure that he was all right. Not just, you know, like checking the Facebook to make sure that he marked himself safe or any of that other dumb stuff that people do. Like, I was like, look, like, yo, literally, I need you to call me. I don't need you to call me. Not a text message. A text message could be any old buddy on your phone typing words on a screen. That's all that is. I'm going to need you to call me. So if y'all are looking at Chaz Taylor like that, I'm pretty certain I can make that move for you.
Yeah, between the two of us, I'm sure we can get that done. What else you got for me, Godfather? or
I
anybody.
could be wrong, but I believe among some of the really wonderful people that have been in the Pacific Northwest, Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney comes to mind. Didn't you attend his seminar?
Who?
Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney.
That name doesn't ring a bell. But I did attend one time a Brett Sawyer seminar where I was the only one at. Here's another thing. I was at a Brett Sawyer seminar where I was the only person. So what does that tell you? He came in. They brought him into a company. They brought him into a company, and he was literally going to work for the seminar money, and all he made was $25, and that $25 was from me. And he wrestled that day too, and I felt bad for him. I even got to ref it because of it. But like I felt bad for the guy because he came all the way from, I think, like the Midwest somewhere, Texas somewhere, and I was the only one there. Do you realize if I wasn't there, this guy would have came out and made absolutely nothing? I mean,
Oh man,
people
that
like
is
that, the Brett Sawyers
incredible.
of the world.
That is absolutely incredible.
And mind you, I'm
I
supposed to be the
also
handy.
wanted to
I'm supposed to
know,
be the fucking
because
handy.
I
I'm supposed
do
to be the.
not know
Go ahead.
whether or not this is fact or fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever work for Portland Wrestling Uncut?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because, you know, like, I personally never had a privilege of enjoying the product, and it was a blanket I missed it, or at least it feels that way.
It was, again, Pete Schweitzer. Oh God, what can I say about Portland Wrestling Uncut? Had it not been for Roddy Piper, it would have been more like Portland Wrestling Unpaid. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. I don't usually do that, but fucking truth. And tonight we're talking. I did get the privilege to do it twice, and then I just couldn't tolerate Pete no more. So I had to just leave. Like, it was, God, man. Like, no offense to any other refs or any other wrestlers in the area, but when you fucking have a guy in there like me who's a fucking workhorse that doesn't blow up, and yet you have a guy that, I'm not going to mention names, but everybody knows him. They called him the ref of the Northwest for many years, that blows up 2 minutes in and shows up drunk. I have a problem with that.
Wow. It's amazing. Like, he just got done mentioning respect, and then that. And it just reminds me of something that I'm always telling people, and that's that, you know, once upon a time, a young version of me had to get my life back together. And through getting my life back together, I had to force myself to spit these words, and that's, I am a man worthy of love, honor, trust, dignity, and respect, until I believed it again. And with those words, I encourage everybody to remind themselves that, even if they're not necessarily struggling with nothing. I am a person worthy of love, honor, trust, dignity, and respect. And that my worth is separate from my behaviors. That means no matter what, right? No matter what you do, the value of yourself as a person does not diminish no matter what you have done or do with your life. Just know that. And the reason that I bring these things up is because, you know, like, I have a relationship partner, and people know this relationship partner of mine, and people think that it's okay to talk to her in a certain kind of way or treat her in a certain kind of way because she's what the wrestling industry knows as a rat. And I say, you're still a fucking person, though. Who are you harming? Nobody? Then why is it okay to talk of you or talk to you a certain kind of way? Yeah, that's me sharing a little human side of myself, the wonderful viewers at home that I also, once again, want to take the time to acknowledge could be doing anything in the world, but they choose to come out to hang out with us. and upon behalf of Inclusion Matters Pro Wrestling and the Inclusion Matters podcast, I want to thank you. And back to interviewing Mr. Rowan here. I want to hear about some of the times of coming up in the business and like just working for wonderful places. Like, I believe I met you in Championship Pro Wrestling. And I believe at the time I met you at Championship Pro Wrestling, the person who was running Championship Pro Wrestling was none other than another close and personal friend of mine, Sam Sims. Tell the people at home, what was it like working for CPW and Sam Sims and some of the talent that you especially appreciated? Because I know you take something you like away from everything you do.
Actually, I got a lot of good memories about Sam and Kevin. Kevin Branske, a friend of mine, and he was the other backer too. I remember when they were starting out in a little place called Rock and Roll Pizza. This place couldn't have seated more than 25 people. I mean, literally, and they were proud to run. I was their senior official at the time, and again, this was an era in the wrestling business that was kind of the Northwest version of the Attitude version. This was that company. They ran a lot more hardcore style stuff. Sam Sims has a place in my heart too, because I was wanting to get out of the business and I was told I wasn't good enough again then, and I was really in a dark spot. I remember this. And then Sam and Kevin came to me and pitched me an idea of, well, come work for us. We're NWA CPW now. And I said, okay, what's this entail? And am I going to have to put up with bullshit from people that I don't need to be putting them up with bullshit? And they said, I'll tell you what, that happens, they're out of here. And I will tell you one thing I know that I will say about Sam Sims. He's as loyal as they come. And I had the previous, like I said, I've gotten to work with that guy so much that Sam is a guy that gave his heart every show he did. He knew he wasn't going to make a lot of money being at 25 people. But he didn't care. Kevin, the same way. Kevin was working at Fran's Bakery then. I remember this in Portland. One of the few places, by the way, that I've worked where I knew I wasn't going to get paid what I was worth. But at least at the end of the day, they paid me every show. They didn't bitch about it. And to this day, I thank them. But I do have some memories of Championship Pro Wrestling. I remember that's where I really got my feet wet too. I got to ref Rikishi there with Tonga Kid. And if you gentlemen are watching, by the way, I say thank you. Because Rikishi's the most humblest man I've ever met. This guy was cleaning out the toilets after. This man had been in the business over 20 plus years at that point and went downstairs and started cleaning out the toilet in the locker room. We're talking a veteran that's been to the WWE and is a WWE Hall of Famer, cleaning out the locker room and not even caring and saying, if you didn't clean out the locker room, then you can get the hell out. That's what I felt about. And to this day, I've never changed. Go ahead. Anybody else? Anybody?
Well, before I think we ask another question, I think we'd be remiss to not let the chairman and co-owner of this company say a few words, maybe offer a couple, maybe offer a position or two to somebody that may or may not be on this podcast.
Floor is yours.
So, Mr. Godfather, sir, on behalf of Inclusion Pro Wrestling, I would like to offer you a position of co-booker and co-creator. and I look forward to coming up with some amazing stories and adventures.
Man, that's amazing, man. That's
Well, brother, butter my bread and call it toast, man.
wow. Wow, that's huge. That's yeah. You know what? Yeah.
Wow, Claudio, I appreciate that. Look, I'm gonna ask Claudio a question now. I'm gonna flip the script for a minute
Oh,
because I am your only Hall of Famer on this show, and rightfully so. I mean that's a good thing. Here's what I'm gonna say to you, Claudio. I hope I've inspired you along the way, and I want you to know this is your time now. That's a genuine position. And brother, I know you ain't gonna do it wrong.
you know, I really have to stay in my humility about it, but you know, like
Oh, you can think outside the box. Go ahead. You can come out the box. It's okay.
you know, honestly, like as much as unpopular or ill received as it may be, you know, like I feel like I'm in the Northwest most fitted to suit a position of such magnitude. I mean, like I did go to high school with both Matt Farmer and Dave Hollenbeck. So,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
like I did kind of go to Washington High School, the high school of Northwest wrestling promoters, conveniently of the beautiful Tacoma, Washington based Franklin Pierce School District. And that's, you know, like where I say I struggle to remain in my humility because I went to the high school of wrestling promoters, I feel like I'm best suited to hold the position. Um, like those are people that I've known the majority of my life. And I understand this craziness known as pro wrestling, and I'm humbled. And yes, as a matter of fact, because you know, like elephant in the room, you have inspired me. And you've always inspired me because, you know, like as much as, you know, like you're a person that, you know, like elephant in the room, you're physically disabled. And you know, like I know that there's a difference between the kind of fucking negativity that was thrown at you and the negativity that was thrown at me is that I have a mouthpiece that pops off at the wrong times about the wrong subjects to the wrong ass people. Like nobody wants like nobody wants to talk about crazy stuff like how CW Bergstrom wanted to beat me up. And I'm like, you got things twisted. I'm not a woman. I'll swing back.
Oh God. I was actually at that. I remember that actually. I do remember that. I was at that thing when that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to put it out there. I was like, he needs to realize, veteran or not, I'm not a woman. I'll swing back.
All right. Well, Mr. Co-owner got to do his little thing. So now it's this co-owner's turn.
Oh,
Claudio, you thought you were going to interview Mark tonight. Well, buddy, the swerve's on you because this hiring and everything was just part one of it. And as Mr. Rowan so graciously said, he is the first, but not only Hall of Famer in this company.
Wait, I'm breaking this.
Mr. David Claudio,
I'm breaking this.
on behalf of Nathan, myself, and I'll let Mr. Rowan finish it, we welcome you to...
You are now the second Hall of Famer.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Bro, you've earned it. You've earned it. I know your struggle. I know you struggle with addiction. Okay. Look. I fully have endorsed you. And I don't do that for many, as you know. You are a friend of mine. And now we can both say it. We're fucking Hall of Famers. And hey, you guys up there, we like our plaques. We like them with extra gold.
Noted.
Okay.
At least I do.
one quick thing before we move on, Claudio. There's one thing. You're a Hall of Famer and you're part of this now. The one thing I can tell you is we're like a family. So in that, like, we're gonna laugh. You're probably gonna be pissed off at me a couple of times, but that's
Brother,
okay
I'm
because
going
I'll
off
probably
camera.
get pissed off at you too a couple of times. But you know what? We're gonna have each other back, and we're gonna make this one of the best promotions that you know in the Northwest. I truly 100% believe that.
And no more hot dogs and handshakes. You're getting paid.
Okay, so here's a really beautiful thing, and that's that Mark knows that my inclusivity and my inclusion are this strong that I say word for word. If bigots and racists can love or can hate for absolutely no reason, I love for absolutely no reason. I love for the reason that I love for no reason other than the fact that people are alive to love. So I'm gonna take it back to my rant about me telling Carly Meyer I love you more. I love everybody here. I love everybody at home watching. I love everybody I interact with. I love everybody, period. And through loving everybody, I love you more. Okay? And when I say that, I don't mean I love you more than you love me. I mean I love you more than the hardship that we're going to face running a wrestling promotion. I love you more than the personalities that are going to dislike you for not giving them their way. I love you more than the egos and the collisions and everything else that we are going to have. Not might have, not might possibly have, not the possibility of having, but are going to have. I love you more than the upset wrestling promoters that might decide to have shows on dates that conflict with us. I love you more. Just know that.
All right. And with that, we forgot, we need to mention the sponsors one last time because that's right, they get 2 shout outs except for the
They
one.
do pay us.
So I'll start with thank you, Precision Power Washing. Again, you can find him on Facebook and Instagram. Nathan, you can finish the other 3.
All right, so the other ones are El Ranchero, Mexican restaurant in Longview, and I can honestly say that's one of the best Mexican restaurants in town.
I just
The
ate
other
there
one
today.
is the CARE program, which stands for Community Action Reaching Everybody. And you can get a hold of the lady that's in charge of that on Facebook, and her name is Becky Bernhardt. And Bruce Nichols Painting for all your painting, pressure washing, and lead removal needs. And you can find him on Angie's.
Absolutely. And one last thing, without Becky, this podcast and this promotion would not have happened.
Yeah, can I say something on that? I've been holding this back, but
Yeah, I suppose you can. You can have the floor. You haven't talked all podcast, so that's a first.
Sorry.
I know, right? No, it's all good. So
Hall of Famers take over.
Listen, you guys have been the realest I've ever seen you on this. It's time for me to get real for a minute.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Okay.
There's 2 people in this town, well, 4 now, but 2 people in this town that have never wavered on me living my dream. And that is Becky Bernhardt and the CARE program, and the heartbreaker Tony Wagner up there in the corner, or up on top. Even times where I thought that dream was so far away, and yeah, okay, we're just going to talk about it, the 2 of you told me this is going to happen, right? We're going to make this happen, and we might have to go a long way to get there, but we're going to make it happen. And from the bottom of my heart, and I can never say this enough, thank you for helping me get to this level, and I look forward to getting to even higher points that we haven't even thought about getting to yet.
Amazing.
All right. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and end this podcast on a very strong note. To all the haters that had told Nathan he couldn't do this.
Yes, thank you, because I can't physically do that. So thank you for doing that for me.
He can't physically do it, so I'll fucking do it for you. There you go.
Thank you.
And
Man,
I'm sure
the glass half full. Y'all are just fans in disguise.
But here I can put it more fitting to something that Nathan can say and something Nathan can do. So if you're gonna doubt this man again, Mr. Noss has got 2 words for you.
F you.
I was thinking of
Fuck
suck
it.
it, but oh well.
Yeah, okay, that works too.
Yeah, that's gimmick infringement. Don't do that.
I
No,
know.
that's true.
I don't want
All
a
right,
cease and desist order from Mr. whatever you want to call him.
So on that half, we're going to go ahead and end this podcast, and we're going to go into a production meeting, which we're inviting Mr. Claudio to stay with us when we go off the air, and we'll have production. So until tomorrow night, everybody. See you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for stopping by.
Appreciate